Hello, beloveds, and welcome to this is our energy line land clearing part 4, and I am really ecstatic to introduce you all to our wonderful guests that I feel really honored to have here, Paul O'Hanlon, and we're going to hear some amazing information, and he can tell us a little bit more about himself and his journey. But let's just start with our meditation. So I'm just going to invite everyone just to take a moment to gently close your eyes and just bring your awareness to that internal landscape. And just bring your awareness to your heart center and just allow yourself to drop into this present moment. You know that when we're in the past, we're mourning, we're in the past, which is no need, that's gone, that's done. And if we're projecting to the future, we're causing unnecessary stress and anxiety. So just letting yourself drop into this present moment. And then I'm going to invite you just to open your arms wide, and let's take a big deep inhale. Bringing your breath all the way up to the crown of your head, and just hold your breath. And then whenever you're ready, it's a big exhale. Exhale all that breath and just round out through the back of your heart. Beautiful. Let's do another big deep inhale. Inhale, opening, expanding, and just allowing that beautiful heart of yours to connect with this almost full moon. And then exhale, exhaling all the breath all the way out and just rounding your back out. Beautiful. Let's do one more big deep inhale. Inhale, filling up every cell with this beautiful oxygen and all this life force. And then exhale, just rounding. Exhaling all the breath out. It takes about between 3 and 6 breaths to get you really into your body, into this present moment. And the next inhale, just lift your arms all the way straight up, as though you're connecting your fingertips straight up with source, with spirit, anything above, from the stars, the moon, planets. And then let's chant Emos, the Gaelic for divine inspiration. Let's just chant that as we bring our hands down to our heart center. Inhale, reaching back up, reaching, relaxing your shoulders, fingers spread wide with a big deep inhale. And then exhaling again, your hands to your heart with Emas. One more big deep inhale, reaching up. And then send this grounding cord out the base of your spine, at the soles of your feet, and send this cord deep down into the heart of Mother Earth, down to the layers of soil and rock and sand, perhaps water, bones, whatever you pass, and just allow your energy to float down to connect with, allow your heart to connect with the heart of Mother Earth. And the minute you reach it, you reach her, you'll feel that connection, and just feeling your connection to the elements, the water, the trees, the roots that go deep into the earth, with the rocks and the crystals, feeling your connection with all of that strong, powerful, stabilizing, grounding earth energy. Just take that moment to have that intimate connection. And then whenever you're ready, we're just going to draw your energy, that beautiful grounding earth energy, up and draw it in, up through the soles of your feet. Bring it in through the base of your spine, and just allow that energy to travel up your spine and just gently elongating through your spine, straightening, so that really allows that life force, that chi, that prana to flow. Feel that energy coming in the soles of your feet, flowing up your legs, allowing your breath to flow freely and deeply. Let that be a moving, gentle meditation, and allowing your breath to float all the way up, moving up past your heart, all the way up to the crown of your head. And then just feeling your connection with your higher self, feeling your connection with your guides. Taking another deep inhale and exhale. Allowing your awareness to float back down to your heart. And let's just take a moment as we open sacred space. As you call in any of the guides that you would like here with you, I personally would like to call in Goddess Bridget to be here with us and Kuan Yin. And if there's anybody else that you'd like here that you truly like to work with, just take a moment to call them in. Just giving deep gratitude. Taking another big deep inhale and exhale. And then whenever you're ready, just gently opening your eyes. So I am so grateful to have Paul here with us. Paul is an incredible shaman, as well as so many other things. I'm going to hand over Paul to tell us. I'm just going to unmute you here, Paul, but I would love for you to come on now. And first of all, just tell us a little bit, briefly about your story that got you connected with working in the land in the way that you do, and just kind of a brief how you got into that and the work that you do, and then we'll kind of get deeper into things.
Okay, thank you for having me on. I'm really honored, and hello to everyone. My journey has been one of resilience, to say the least. I was born a blue baby. I didn't realize that till later on. That's initiation. I had a sickness when I was 7, and later I found out that's what they call dowse sickness. That's the sickness you get at the Samgomas when you're called to do the medicine in Africa. And years later, I went and did it. So I'm been known in South Africa as a Samgoma. My teachers, Peter Pham and Tiz. Zanzimula, the man who brings the rain. He goes to villages that have drought. And he does ceremony and it rains at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is great.
Well, it sounds like it needed in California right now then.
Yeah, cool. I must say that to him. He was here one May with me. He was here for 3 or 4 weeks, 2, 3 weeks, whatever. I had to ask him to go home because it never stopped raining.
It rains up here as it is.
Man, it was coming straight down, just straight down. So I always, in my life, I never felt I was a square peg in a round hole, and trying to fit in and trying to conform, which would work for a little while, but then I'd break rank again. And I always wanted to be a soldier for some reason or other. And eventually I joined the army when I was 19, and I thought I'd found myself, to be honest with you. I got a few rapid promotions and things like that, and ended up overseas. And in that process of being overseas, Lebanon, I came back with post-traumatic stress. And now at that time, no one talked about post-traumatic stress. They probably didn't know what it was. And being a military guy and a rugby player, you didn't, you were suffering inside, and you didn't. Soldiers don't express. You were taught not to, because your emotions are all screwed up and tied up and whatever. So eventually then I left the army, and when I came out, I was like a fish out of water. It took me about 5 years to find myself again. Something led me to Reiki. I forget what it was and how I found it. And I went off and I did the Reiki initiations and courses. And I was also a masseur, and I used to work a lot with rugby teams and things like that, and used to do a bit of Reiki and stuff, even though the Reiki was a big part of it. But I had the nightmares and the dreams from the army, and I used to wake up and the whole bed would be wet around me, all the trauma, all the stuff, my clothes, everything. And every night for a year, I did Reiki on myself. I did the chakra thing. And the last night I did it, I had a dream. And in the dream, my commanding officer came to me and he said, it's time for you to leave the army. And that was the last nightmare and the last trauma I had. So that ended that. So I had to go through that process of learning and teaching. And I remember when I'd be in class, I remember meeting a girl one day. She was in the Reiki class with us, and she had all pimples and things on her face, and hair was greasy and everything. But 3 months after we did the course, I met her in Galway one day. She was absolutely stunning, beautiful. And I said, my God, what happened to you? She said, oh, the Reiki did that to me. And I was like, why didn't it do it to me? Why is it doing it to you and not to me? But what was happening with me, it was working from very deep in. Mm-hmm. The energy was working from in out, not from out in, if you understand.
Absolutely.
And that was a big, big teaching and a big lesson. It took me a while to realize that. So then this person handed me a sheet on shamanism. And I read it. I didn't even know what the word meant, but I got excited. And I eventually ended up with Martin Duffy in Dundee, and I did the course with him. And the first time I heard the drum beat, I started to cry. I knew I'd come home. I thought I had everything in my life was sorted. But little did I know, it was just the beginning of the journey. I think when you sit back and think you've it sorted, spirit comes at you and then they sort you out, in the best way possible. But I remember on that course, people going through process. And I was looking at them and wondering what the hell was going on. Were they all right? Were they mad? Were they this? Were they that? To the last weekend, I got my turn. And we had a power place where we used to go and sit with nature. And mine was the rhododendron tree. And the reason I connected with it was my mother wasn't long after crossing over, and also they grow wild in Connemara, where I come from. So there was a connection. And I sat with that tree and I shared my stuff with it, and it shared stuff with me. And the last weekend we were in the place, more or less told me to shake off. So I was rejected by a rhododendron tree. So I was really, really angry because I was asking, could I still connect with it after I left? Went back into class, told everyone what I thought of them, and I was getting out of there. I was going home. It was all a heap of crap. I was finished with this stuff. But for some reason, I stayed. So the next day, we were working with a fairy tree out in Tara, and I kept being pulled back from the tree. Now, I knew the tree wasn't pushing me away. It was another tree that was pulling me. So when the meditation or the drumming session was over, I just said to the people there, there's a tree over there looking to talk to someone. I'm not talking to any more trees. Will you go off and talk to it? But anyway, I went down to have a cup of tea in the little cafe there in Tara, anyone that's familiar with it. And I just said before I went to this friend of mine, Pat, I'm going to walk those 8 chakra points on Tara, and you stand on them and you get the energy off them. So I'm going to go out and get a bit of energy off these chakra points, and then I'm going to go away, and that's it. I'm finished with this thing. But as I was walking across the hill, I got the pull again. So I said, okay, I'll talk to this tree, and it'll be the last tree I'll talk to. And what happened was the spirit came out, and he actually said to me, the reason that other one told you to get lost was because I couldn't teach you anymore. You didn't want to let go, but I'm your new teacher. So what that taught me was that when one door closes, and sometimes we're in no man's land, we're in trauma, and we cannot see the opportunity that's waiting for us. So lots of times when we go through, like as we call in the shamanic thing, death, rebirth, we're in the death process, and we're out in no man's land, as I call it, and we're in the shock. So the fear element would be, I can go back there, I'll be comfortable, and I'll be warm. Or the courageous thing is to walk on forward, but we don't know what the future holds. But if we have that trust in spirit and that trust in the energies, we'll always be looked after. So that was a big, big teaching there. And then I worked with that medicine for a while, and I used to drum every day to the directions and to the energies to connect with them at a deeper level. And then one day they told me that one of the things I was going to be doing was to be healing land. And I said, that's crazy. healing land. You must be cracked. Who would pay someone to heal land and do that kind of stuff? You know what I mean? So I was working in Gort, County Galway. I was a PE instructor in the army, and I got a job as a leisure manager. And there was this lady down there. Her name was Teresa Maloney, a homeopath. Now she could see me, and I couldn't see. I couldn't see myself. If you understand what I'm trying to say. So she caught me by the hand and brought me to Wicklow to do a land and house healing energy work with Joe Mullally, who was teaching us in Blessington at the time. And I did the course. Now, the first time I caught the rods, I could do things with them. I didn't know what I was doing. I was able to do things. I was trying to, it took a while, but it was automatic. It just came to me. So I started healing the land. She used to pull me out to houses. She'd do homeopathic stuff and pull me out to houses. I wouldn't want to go. And she'd get pull the car upside the door, push me into it, and bring me with the rods, and we would do the work. And that eventually got me going. And as you can see, and since I still had great resistance to it, I didn't want anyone to know I was doing it. It was like being gay and being in a closet. But the closet then eventually got too small, and I had to step outside it. So then I met, you see, I didn't have to look for my shamanic teachers. They came to me. The other one was Chief Wananichi. He's Ojibwa tribe, which are North Dakota. Did some work with him. And before he came, I had the dream about him being a wily old Indian. And he was, and he still is a wily old Indian. But he showed me some good techniques. Went to Africa on a rugby tour. I was bagman for Irish colleges. And I always knew that I was going to end up in Africa. And I thought I was going to meet my teacher there, but I didn't meet my teacher there. I met him afterwards when I came back on another course that he was running, and we clicked. And he came to me for years after that to Ireland, and I would go to Africa to him. And then I did my beads, and I became what they call in Africa Sangoma. And I worked when he came here first, which was amazing. And we started working with his medicine. He was afraid that medicine wouldn't work in this country because he thought the archetypes and the energy would be different. Mm-hmm. It's all the same. It's all the same. And he taught me some things about land, some stuff about lands, especially spirit lines and things. Well, I knew about spirit lines, but a way of actually healing them and things. But more awareness, because in the Sangoma, the energy in Africa would be very earthbound anyway, and they work a lot with that energy and with the herbs. I don't work with the herbs. I find it easier to call in the spirit of the herb than to work with it, you know. Maybe that's a lazy way. And then I worked with that for years, and in the last couple of years I've been attending Sundance with the Cree Nation in Canada, and I've got some initiations from them and some blessings, and some medicine has come my way through that. So when people ask me who I am and what I am, tell them I'm a mongrel shaman. I'm like Dana in the song. I'm all kinds of everything.
Oh,
so that's kind of very basic story.
Oh, well, that's amazing. And I know, I'm sure it could go on for days, and I would love to hear longer versions at times. But what an amazing path, and how brave you are to fully step out in it, and the work that you do, is so powerful, as I know. And I'm kind of excited to get stuck in to some questions, and you just have just this unbelievable wealth of knowledge. I think the first thing I would love to start with is, well, one thing that I promise that we talk about for today, and then we'll go on to other things, but is when you find out that a house, the land, has got geopathic stress, it's got lines, and we'll talk about the different types of lines after. What are the remedies? Like, how do you remedy those lines that are on the land that are running through the houses?
Yeah, well, okay. Basically, you divine the place, and I look for the lines. And lots of times, and most of the time, I find the lines I find around houses are Hartmann lines. I don't know if people are familiar with Hartmann.
Yeah, no, they are.
Dr. Hartmann, yeah. And they are cancerous lines. If they measure anything over 9, they can be toxic and things. And lots of times I find in houses and around houses, I find vortexes. And the vortexes are usually 31 or 32, which is the highest vortex you can find. Why is that? Yet if you divine down the field away from the house, the lines won't be, you'll get the Corey lines, they won't be as wide, and sometimes they're maybe 30, 40 yards apart, and maybe more. And that puzzled me for a long time, till I realized people talk about the aura of, of a person and the thing. I talk about the crystal body. So if you can imagine a crystal ball, and you stand in the middle of the crystal ball, and someone drops it on the ground, there's all cracks and stuff in it. So lots of times when people are building houses, you see, when they built houses long time ago, they dug with spades and pickaxe and shovels. So they weren't going that deep into the earth, and they weren't causing that much damage. I've done over 5,000 properties in my time so far. That's a rough estimate, give or take. And I've come across 5 houses that didn't need my service geopathically, but they need them other ways, with other entities or with energies or whatever. But anyway, what I have found is that when people dig into the earth and they do these things with diggers and all that kind of stuff that comes on sites, and sometimes they have to blast and whatever, they crack the crystal body. So that allows the energy also to seep up. So by us pulling the crystal body together or sealing it sometimes, that will actually heal the line. The first way I was taught how to heal lines was with copper, to make a copper ring. And it works fairly simple, but it has drawbacks. What happens with the copper ring, you put the copper ring into the ground, it's circular. You face the copper towards the river, the flow of the river. And as the river is flowing, what actually happens? See, what happens is, if people are not familiar, the magnetic frequency around our body is 7.83. The magnetic frequency of the river should be 7.83. When it becomes distorted in a positive or a negative thing, it distorts the frequency around our body. So by putting the copper in the river, as the river flows into the house, you put it whatever way it's flowing in, it diverts the energy upwards away from the house. Now, that works. But what happens sometimes with that, if a digger or something is working outside that and it swings against the energy, it can divert the energy, believe it or not, and it can come in from another angle. Mm-hmm. So another thing I do is I work with remedies, and the remedies I made myself from working on land and seeing things that grow on land in certain places, and being guided by the spirits to do these remedies. So I make a remedy for the house when I go there, and sometimes that can tell me the story of other things that's happening in the house as well, like curses and imprints and all that kind of stuff that's going on there. And the remedy, believe it or not, when I put it down, will heal that energy. But I believe you could do that with what you call them, the backflower remedies and that kind of thing as well. And they would work with that. So
is there any particular of the Bach flower?
No, what you do is you divine the remedies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I would do is I normally get 4 remedies. I divine the remedies. The remedies, you know, you could say this, that, and the other. For example, you might have to use the rescue remedy or the Star of Bethlehem or the other ones. I forget. I have them. I don't use them that much, to be honest with you now.
The Star of Bethlehem and rescue.
Yeah, because there could have been shock, there could have been trauma, there could have been different things, but there could also be other different things in the house that need. So you just go around the top of the box and you dowse it with your pendulum, and or you'll feel the energy shoot up through your hand or up to your finger or whatever. So that's another way I do it, and so that's three different things. I use that at source to heal the 3 different ways, and the other way then is we work through the blessing point. The blessing point is the sacred point of the land, and there's a blessing point on all aspects of land. And when you find the blessing point, you connect heaven and earth, and you can work all the energies from there as well. So that's how I heal the geopathic stress.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What are the main?
But over the years,
yeah,
I would have worked with maybe 1 or 2 techniques, but I have many techniques now, because Spirit will show you, teachers will show you, different people will show you. And when I'm a believer, I've trained a lot of people in land and house healing, and I'm a big believer in. You see, when the medicine comes to you, you have your medicine, I have my medicine, but the medicine will flow you in a way that's comfortable for you. The way I may do it may not be comfortable for that person, but it'll open up their awareness to help them to realize what they can do and how they can do it, and do it whatever. But what's very important, when we do that kind of work, sometimes, especially with the geopathic stress and stuff, what actually happens is we could be the last people called in there to do the work. Sometimes we're the last resort in a health thing, and it's very important that you do it right. That's what it's.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I know you're right. It might be like, oh, we've tried everything else, and you were talking about obviously, Hartman lines and geopathic stress and Curry lines. What are all the different lines that you work with?
Curry lines are only 3 foot wide. Hartman lines are over 20 foot wide. Them are the shamanic lines. The other lines that we work with are spirit lines. These are lines that the spirit. I'll give you an example. Sometimes those famine walks in Ireland, and you'll get spirit lines in other countries as well. And I'll explain them. Spirit lines are where, say, sometimes, and the best way to explain it in Ireland was that people walk for many miles to get food during the famine. Lots of people died on them lines, on that route. So them spirits are still walking them lines. So some people build houses, and there could be a crossroads in their house where there's a line going one way and a line going the other way. Usually when that's happening, you get a lot of activity in a house. There's also other energies that can attach to that will cause havoc. So our job is to rectify that by diverting the lines from the house. Now, I'm not going to tell people how to do that because there's other energies that can work with them that's kind of dangerous.
Yeah,
but that's spirit lines. Fairy lines, believe it or not, if you get ring forts, sometimes there's paths between the ring forts, and a house can be built in the middle of it. Now, that's a matter of sitting down with the fairies and talking to them and saying, look, these people built the house here. They're very sorry for doing it. They didn't realize there was a highway going through here, but we can divert it and we can help you to do it. So that usually takes care of that, and a little drop of whiskey to the fairies kind of sorts that out. It does, believe it or not. And a few Smarties or sweets or something.
Offering, yeah.
Yeah. Then there's what I call them yin lines. I don't really know what they are, but what happens is I was with a fella one time. I was doing his house, and he couldn't sleep in the bed. It was like fire under him all the time, energy, and I could track the line coming in the window and going right out through the house, right? And I rang my friend Kay to tune in to see what it was, and. But what I actually do with that energy is just earth it back down into the ground, and that sorts it out for a reason. Okay. I'm just trying to think the other lines I do now. Zen lines, spirit lines, fairy lines. Then there's, of course, there's ghosts. Lots of times when you pull the lines out of the house, there's ghosts in the house. But there's also ghosts there. If you come on an old house, I do call them Far and Talav's Ban and Cheese. The Banshee is an old woman that stays in a house, and she still owns that house. So you marry into that house, and for some reason you don't feel welcome in that house. And the reason you don't feel welcome is because this woman is saying, what's this woman doing in my house? I remember one time removing a spirit from a house, and the woman I was working for was a little bit, sometimes, people kind of on a need to know basis sometimes, because some people wouldn't be as open, say, as the people that are listening to us now. So you kind of have to curtail it in a way, but still do the work. I know you understand what I'm saying, Amanda,
Yeah,
don't
and I
you?
think everyone does. And
Yeah.
what I love is actually the goddesses that are online with us are all coming in from somewhere around America. But I
Okay.
love the fact that all of them were here in the last 2 years, and that little tea shop on Hill of Tara you talk about, they've all had a cup of
Oh,
tea.
they've all been there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I was quitting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I released that spirit, what actually happened was the woman started crying. I said, "Why are you crying?" She said, "Whatever you did there, this is the first time I felt at home in this place in 30 years."
Wow.
And it was instant. And then I was able to tell her of moving the spirit. The other thing is the Far and Tala for the people in America is man of the land. These are Irish words. I just put Irish words on them. Sometimes a father will reluctantly hand a farm or land over to a son, or a grandfather would have handed over, maybe a great grandfather, but their spirit is still on that land. And what's actually happening with them is they are saying, "What the hell is going on here? Why is he building the shed? What's he doing here? Why is he putting the cattle here? Why is he doing that?" And little things start happening, machinery breaking down, and all that kind of stuff happen. So sometimes that that that, that happens. I'll give you an example of that. Good few years ago, down in County Clare, man and woman bought this land, and they had Shirley cattle on the land, and the cattle were dying one after the other, and they had tried everything now. So again, we were called in as the last resort, I suppose, in a way. And what happened was, uh, the woman owned the place, and the guy married in, but the guy was fond of the drink.
Mm, mm.
So the woman died, and he sold the place. The spirit of the woman was still on the land, and she was angry with these strangers on her land with these cattle. So when I removed her and told her that the place was sold and that she was dead, that it was okay, that she could move along, everything was fine. So you get a lot of that, and in Ireland with land and stuff, land is king.
Oh, yeah,
People get it hard, even after they die, they get it hard to let it go,
yeah.
and that leads to another thing. That leads to curses. I just had to heal one today in two ways, but just to explain to you first. In Ireland, there's a lot of land that was owned by landlords. And the only way that people could get back at the landlords, you must remember that the landlords took the land off them. It was their land at some stage. So there was bad feeling and ill will. So the people would usually, and lots of times, they would curse the land and curse the place that the landlord lived. And if you look around the country now, a lot of them old houses are all ruins. But what happens is when the people buy the land, or they're given it by the land commission, they take ownership of the land plus the curse. So that curse is still alive, and that's still in that place. But not alone is the curse still alive. The people that were cursed are trapped, and the people that put on the curse are trapped. So there's a whole sequence of releasing that energy to make that land free. So I had to deal with that today. But also I had to deal with a girl that was coming home, and she got possessed on the way home. She was cursed and possessed. And I believe the reason that happened was because she didn't honor a favor for some fella on the way home, and it was done. Now they said that a priest came and he put a medal on her, and she was fine. But what actually happened was when she took the medal off one day to wash, she got mad again. So she had to leave the country, and she went to America. But her spirit was there today. So the energy was in her spirit. So that soul was trapped. And that soul would stay trapped till we came along and release that energy from her soul, and then release her soul and let it go on. And what happens in that energy as well, that would be ancestral, in that because that woman was stuck in a way. Lots of times when we do the work, we track down the ancestral lineages. And it's important to do that, because what happens with that energy is sometimes if someone is stuck in the energy, a spirit, that energy resonates down through the ancestors, right down to the people today, and will keep resonating down to the generations to come. if it's not held. It'll either manifest in sickness or in some different way. So it's very important to clear the lines. And also what's important to do sometimes is when you're clearing that energy, sometimes we check the father's line and the mother's line. Boom, boom, down we go. That's okay. We're checking a surname. But also other people marry into that line. So you have to check along that line and see where that energy and the energy could come in, like a curse could come with another family into a place. So a curse can be on a person, place, thing, or object. A curse could be on a person, on the name, a family name, and can be on land or an object. And lots of times you will get objects, especially coming from third world countries where there's medicine, they will put a curse on that thing. So the white person brings it home, puts it into their house, and it can bring down the energy. The other thing we look at, I'm not rambling here, am I?
No, but I'm intrigued about how you clear the curse, but I'm sure you'll get to that.
I'm not going to tell them that
Yeah.
because it's not for everyone. Courses, see, some people see the courses. What you have to do is to connect with the people, and you have to connect with the energies, and you have to. Sometimes we have to go into the underworlds to do that,
Yeah.
into the dark places. So I'm not saying it from ego now or anything like that. I'm
Oh,
just,
absolutely. No, I
you
totally get
understand.
it. Yeah.
The other thing that can be on land is trauma.
Hmm.
Trauma can be to do with there could have been a fight in a family. There could have been something. There could have been someone killed on the land. I'll give you an example. One time I was doing a house in Galway here, and um, when I got to the front door, I didn't feel welcome, but the people were beautiful, and I was wondering, whatever. Anyway, when I got to I part of the geopathic and did all that thing, and then when I got into to working with the spirits and working with the stuff, what had actually happened in a bog hole where that house was built out in Connemara, a woman and a child had died. The spirits had passed on, but the memory and the imprint and the trauma was there all the time. So that had to be cleared. Other times as well, we talk about people getting possessed, people getting things. They can get it from the land, they can get it from the air, they can get it from the water. Because sometimes when people are killed, the blood spills on the land, but the spirit is on the land. So when the people eat the food, they ingest it, they can drink it, they can breathe it in. So there's heaps of things.
Wow, that's amazing, amazing. Um, I well,
But that's years, Amanda. That's years and years of learning. That's years
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
years of, you know, um, and spirit will teach you all these things, and there's more, but it's not coming to me at the minute. But you see, and the whole thing is not to complicate things, uh,
Absolutely.
and to be guided. Like like if I heard you talking about feng shui, I'd be saying, "Wow, too." You know,
Well, no, I love this, and I'm just thinking that all land, most land has had some kind of trauma or some, whether it's even just a sheep dying on it, being attacked by
yeah.
an animal, or famine, or these fires in California, all these houses getting burnt down, to war all over the world. So it's just like this work is so badly needed in the world.
Mm.
And so one other thing I'd love to come back to is, we're talking about all this, the lines, the Curry lines, Hartman lines, fairy lines, everything. But then you mentioned geopathic stress. Do you look at all these lines under the name of geopathic stress, or do you?
No,
Okay, so do you want to go a little bit into what you define geopathic stress as?
geopathic stress to me is the rivers that run under the ground that cause the sickness in the house. When the energy is not 7.83, when it's imbalanced, and it causes the imbalance around the person's body, that to me is geopathic stress. Um, Lots of times when we remove that, you can find sometimes spirit lines run under it. As I said to you, the spirit line is a line which has been a road or a pathway in which the spirits travel on. And you must remember that when they die, and when they die in that place, they're in a different time zone, a different energy to us. So they keep reenacting the thing all the time. Example. one time a fella asked me to come to do a house in County Clare that was haunted, and the people could see what they called the white lady going up the road. She used to go up the road every evening at a certain time. So when I went there, she was about 16, 17 years of age. This spirit was walking up the road. In actual fact, she got killed on the way home. She's going home to see her dad. So this was maybe 17th, 18th century, something around that time. The dress was of that period, but it doesn't really matter. I don't get too much into the story because you kind of can trap the energy in that way. Anyway, when we got her father to come for her and to take her home, and then he told her she was dead and he could take her home, that ended that. So sometimes it can be as simple as that. Lots of times when people cross spirits over, they're calling angels and they're calling Christ and they're calling this. Lots of times people don't want that because they're afraid of that. They're afraid they'll be judged. When you cross people over, always call on their ancestors that are in heaven and that love them, their brother, their sister, their father, their mother will come and they will go to them. And you see when they cross over, one of the things that happens with us when we come into this world, we have a contract, and we've agreed to this contract that we're going to do this kind of whatever work we're going to do or whatever lessons we have to learn in life. But when we come in here, we have free will to do it. And it took me a long time because I journeyed to the contracts office to sort contracts out for people in that if they've learned the lesson already in another life, there's no need in learning it in this life. We can cross that off. So sometimes when you're looking at courses and you have to look at contracts, because if things keep reenacting, it could be a course or a contract. That's putting it very simple. So what happens is we go there and we sort it out. But anyway, I was getting angry with the contracts manager in the contracts office, and I used to give out to him till I realised, and I had to go back and apologise to him, by the way, was that we write our contracts, we agree as a soul what we're going to do when we come in. When we cross over, it's our job to check that off. But sometimes we get so excited and we go to the world, we forget to do that, so we leave the thing open. So it was a very humbling experience for me to learn that. So sometimes it can be either or. That's the way it works. Mm-hmm. I got lost in my train of thought there. But...
Well, no, I absolutely agree. We come in with these soul agreements and we've agreed to them, and it's like, okay, I better remember, note to self, check that off.
Yes. But you see what? Oh yeah, I was talking about people crossing over. So what happens is, people fear that when they're crossing over that they're going to be judged. Now, why do people not cross over? Sometimes they don't know they're dead, and that's because sometimes if they die of a heart attack or die suddenly, they keep reenacting the thing and the energy. The lots of examples of stuff like sometimes when a person dies sudden, maybe one of their siblings will come to me and they're telling me about panic attacks and being agitated or being this and that and the other. And the very simple reason for that is because that person can be standing behind them. And when that person is standing behind them, that person doesn't realize they're dead and they're trying to talk to them. So they get into a panic state. That person is picking up on the panic. And sometimes it's just a matter of releasing the spirit from behind them to relieve the person of that stress. Another very important one, I think, there for your listeners is, because I've come through depression and all that stuff on my journey, lots of people come to me for healing around depression and suicide and stuff like that, especially suicidal people. But what I always find was, I don't know if it does happen in other countries, but if you watch suicides, sometimes a person commits a suicide, either a relation or a friend of that person, maybe 4 or 5 years later, will do the same thing. There's always kind of a cycle on that kind of thing. That's because sometimes the suicidal person can be standing behind a brother, sister, father, or mother, or someone that they're close to. And sometimes it's as simple as releasing that spirit back to the spirit world that will release the energy that will break that cycle within the people. So there's that kind of thing. There's because they don't know they're dead, because they have an attachment to a person or a place, because of a fear of crossing over or being judged. Then we're just a couple of the ways that the thing, and sometimes all you have to do is reassure them. But lots of times when you call their ancestors that are in heaven or higher vibration, that's very important, because they have to be at a higher vibration in heaven or higher, fifth dimension or higher vibration, to bring them to their proper place in the universe. And when you bring them to their proper place in the universe, we're not God. We don't judge. They go to where they need to go, whatever they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, we're
No,
on a tangent there.
no, it's great. By all means, just let whatever needs to come through, come through. You mentioned earlier on, this is like going back to when you were sharing your story, that when you were born as a blue baby, and then that was it age 6 or 7 that you were unwell? Is that what you said?
Seven.
What was that? What happened?
I went through this crazy sickness of I had a temperature they thought I was going to die. The doctor said if it doesn't break by, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours time, it'll be gone. But I didn't go. I big Connemara man. I stayed around.
Did
But
that
I was crazy. I was raving and all over the place, and it must have been an off time for my father and my mother. But I'll never forget it. I can still
remember?
see some of the visions, yeah, and yeah, but you know, I meet a lot of people now that are going through their journey. A lot of people that are opening up, and sometimes when you walk into a house to do the work, sometimes I think when I walk in to do the work, they'd be kind of disappointed I'm not wearing a pinty little hat and a little megajine on me and a little
Or you don't have a
wand.
magic wand, a magic wand.
Yeah, that I'm not airy fairy. And the first thing I demand is a cup of tea. To me, that cup of tea is very important because you can sit down with them and it takes away a lot of the fear out of them, and they kind of see that you're a normal person in whatever way normal is. But the thing is to put them at ease.
Yeah.
And lots of times, by going and by doing the work, and sometimes I do it in ceremony, and I can do it different ways because, as I said to you earlier on, it depends how open the people are. You have to be able to work around their energy, and we're not there to traumatize anyone, or we're there to help them. And lots of times, by being there directly or indirectly, you open them to their path, or you give them the courage to go to their path to do whatever they need to do, which is beautiful.
That's gorgeous. And speaking of, you were saying that you do ceremonies and everything. So, excuse me, when you get there, you go in and make them feel comfortable, have a cup of tea, chat with them. But do you do something to open space? Do you create an altar?
Yeah, I do. I open space by I open space. Yeah, the shamanically I open the directions. Sometimes I will do it and get them all involved, but I can do it. But I also have to empower all my tools and all the stuff that I work with. So you see, sage, for example, when you pick sage, the American Indian puts the sage to sleep, the spirit of the sage to sleep. So people are going around working with the sage and it's asleep, it's snoring. So what you have to do is to wake the sage up. The same thing with our drums, the same thing with our rattles, with our divining rods, with all that kind of stuff. We have to activate them and get them ready. Also do prayer ties. A little ceremony with the people that they put their prayers and their stuff into with tobacco into a prayer tie, and then we energize them prayer ties, and then we put them in the land so that they work with the land as well. So that's their way of working with it. So then I can walk through the blessing point. I can do ceremonies through the blessing point, working with the directions in the different ways, north, south, east, and west, above and below, and the center. And when I'm finished, I grid the place and I put pyramids under it and pyramids over it. So that the energy pyramids. If you put a pyramid, if you get 2 glasses of wine and you put a pyramid over one and leave the other one the same, or even water and leave it there, just imagine a pyramid over, just leave it there for 10 or 15 minutes. It purifies it to be totally different. Very, very, very simple, But these are all things that you learn. These are all things that you and lots of times, sometimes when you go to places, I never go, with a routine of how to do anything. The energies and the spirits will show me what I need to do.
Yeah, yeah, you'll be guided.
Yeah, you understand what I'm saying there and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And what I'd love to do is kind of open up to some questions. And Justine, the first question that she asks is, how do you activate your healing tools and wake up the sage?
Well, what I do with the sage, I give it a kick. Do that. No, no, no. Very simple. I just break off the sage in my hand and I just hold it in my hand and ask the spirit of the sage to awaken. Right. And then I put the sage on stuff. So I have a little bowl and I have the sage burning in the bowl. So I call on the ancestors from the north to awaken the energy, the south, the east, the west, above and below, and the center, to awaken the spirit within that energy to do this specific work today. And the same, and with the rods, I call on all the ancestors that have used the rods, all the diviners, higher dimensions to come to work through me, to work on that, so that I can get the truth for that for the people. If I'm using a drum, I don't use a drum that much on the land, unless I have to, or a rattle. But I just work another way at the minute. But that's how you do it. And but the most important thing is to awaken the sage first. You know?
Okay. And Maya was asking, and I think you kind of touched on it there, but how do you awaken the drum? What do you do with it?
The drum, yeah, same thing. Just over the sage. We do a lot of fire ceremony. I do a lot of fire ceremony here. For example, we'll have a fire again next week on the moon. And the reason I do the fires is because that's my way of saying thanks to the spirit world for giving me these gifts. Do the fires free, bring the people back here, give them tea, coffee, and biscuits. And the reason we do that is to create a community. And we've had weddings and we've had relationships all come out of this, which is beautiful. But it's like me and you meeting at ceremony, and we go to the ceremony, we say hello, but that's it. Goodbye, we're gone. So that if we meet and do ceremony and come back and have a cup of tea, people will connect, and it creates that community to connect like-minded people together. So that if I was going through something and I said, "Oh, I have Amanda's number, I can ring her. Maybe we should meet for a coffee and talk." So I'm talking to someone that comes from a space that understands. So lots of times you can do this with the sage, or the way I do it. When I light the fire, the energy of the fire, I offered the drum to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west, to the ancestors. And I asked the ancestors of each of the directions that were drummers or shamans or whatever, and the connection to my lineages. You see, in the South African tradition, I'm connected to the lineages of my teachers. I'm connected to my own ancestors, my fathers, my mothers, and to all the teachers before. So when I walk with that energy, I walk with many ancestors. So I connect to all them and to all the people that will bring the energy into the drum in a way. All you have to do is intention. Offer to the north, the south, east, and the west. To the energies below, the energies above, which is the creator, and the energies in the middle. And that does it. And when you're finished with your tools, wrap them up in cloth, tie them up, because then they go to sleep. So then when they're asleep and they're resting till they come to the next job. And that's very important. You wouldn't like to be awake all the time, you know? So does that answer a question?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So let's see if, because before we come to a close here, let's see if there's any other questions. Okay, here's Justine. If you're afraid of working with your ancestors, could you represent generational issues?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. If you're afraid of working with your ancestors, is it?
Justine, I'm going to mute you. Go ahead, honey. Unmute yourself there. And
okay. Hi. Hello.
Hey,
I'm
Justine.
loving everything that you're sharing because it's so awesome, especially about like the curses and like the land, like that to me is so powerful to kind of understand that from like a bigger perspective. But my question is I've had a big fear of working with my ancestors because I'm afraid of the lineage that's associated with it. So I was just curious if that is like a spiritual, could it cause like a spiritual issue, or is it like something that, I don't know. It's just, I don't know how to explain it specifically.
No, I understand what you're saying, darling.
Okay.
Let me say to you that in all our ancestral lineages, and in lots of ways, there's crap down the ancestral line because it's who we are, what we are, and this is the lineage we're in this time. very simple thing to do is just to ask for the ancestors that are in heaven and from a higher vibration to come and work with you, and especially the ones that love you. That's all you have to do. And you see, one time, one of my students, right, said to me one day, "I feel your energy is a bit low," she said. Karen, a very good friend of mine. And I said, "Yeah, you're right. I feel a bit drained at the minute. It's time to clean out your ancestors." "So what do you mean?" She said, and she was right. And I did. And let me explain. Sometimes I always call on the ancestors that are in heaven and that love me, that are willing to work with me, and that are of a higher vibration than me. So they'll bring me to the next level. Do you understand what I'm saying? You got that? Now, the other thing is, sometimes guys that are finished with you kind of like the space that they've been in with you, and they can't give you any more. So it's time to say, so every now and again I say, "Lads, I thank you for being with me. I really, really appreciate the work and the teachings you've given me. But it's time for you to go home, and I wish you well home now." So that with the intention of the people that I don't need to work with anymore, and they go off and they may come back to be reincarnated, or they may have to go somewhere else. Also remember that when you bring the ancestors in to work with you, you may be teaching them as well as them teaching you. You know, it kind of works both ways, but it's important that you say, those that love me and that are in heaven and of a higher vibration, I always say of a higher vibration than me. And what I really mean by that is they're bringing me to the next level. And then when I feel I get there, or whenever I'm told, I'll just say to them, "Thank you. I wish you safe home." When you finish work, if you open your space and you bring in your ancestors, your spirit guides, your power animals, your guardian animals, whatever you bring in, always when you're finished, send them home till you need them again, because they need a break too. you know, you know what I mean. When I was learning, uh, and in the teaching, what actually happened was, Chief Wananichi explained to me. He said people get too attached to guides here. And I've read books by lots of mediums and different people that would have guides, that they would have them all their life. But what I feel happens with them, you see, they're afraid to release these guides because they're afraid that they will lose the energy or the power. So so if I'm your guide, right, and I'm up above and you call me down and you're saying, "Oh, Paul is my guide, my guide, my guide." And I'm saying, after maybe a year or 2 years with you, "For Jesus' sake, will you let me go? I'm finished with you. I can't teach you no more, but you won't let me go." So the other guides up above are saying, "Oh, we're not going down working with her because she won't let us go. She'll imprison us," right? So always release them. And then the guys are, "We'll go and work with her because she's great. She'll do the job and she'll let us go. Then we can reincarnate or do other work or do whatever." So that's an important point.
That's great. Thank you. And Maya, do you want to unmute yourself, because you had a question for Paul there as well?
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, go ahead, love.
Oh my gosh, I never knew how to do this on my phone. My question was on you mentioned marrying into a lineage. I was just feeling that my husband's family line is very strong, and I haven't considered working with, his ancestors. And I was just wondering how can I work with both mine and his?
Okay, so what you can do is write down what I normally do. You can go back 7 or 10 generations, right? So write down his name, his surname. Write down his father's name and his mother's name, her maiden name. So when you write them down, just go back with a pendulum or with your finger. Is there a problem in this energy? Is there a problem in this line, say on the father line? And say if you go four generations back and it says there's a problem here. Say, is it on the male side or the female side? Is it on the male side of the family? Is it male or is it female? Now, if it's male, it's still the same surname. But if it's female, it could be coming in from another lineage. Do you understand? Can you hear me?
Maya,
Um,
yeah, there she is. Sorry.
Does she
yes.
understand what I'm saying?
A little bit. Keep going.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll sink in.
Yeah. So you can go back through that and you can work that way on it. And then there's a very simple way of healing stuff like that. You can again dowse for a remedy from the back flower remedies from the Australian rose, whatever flower remedies or whatever, and that's what remedy you need to put beside that energy, and just leave it beside it, and you can work with your pendulum or work direct with spirit until you feel that energy is healed, and then ask his ancestors to come and take it to heaven, and then just douse down the light again and see if there's a problem. That's a simple way of doing it now.
I didn't even think about there being a problem. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Um, a little bit. I mean, I guess I'm not sure what is it I'm trying to discover
No,
about
what you're trying to do, if you feel if there may be nothing, and if there's nothing, there's great. Just go down. I'm just telling you how to do it. So if you write the father's name down, the mother's name down, his name down. So that's their lineage, right? If you're checking the ancestors, you have to check the father side and the mother side, because the mother is a different name and it comes back through a different lineage. But also what I'm trying to say to you is that when you go back through all the lineages, and if you find a problem, it could be someone else that married into that family as well that could have brought the problem in, the energy, if you're looking for it. That's just the way I do it.
And then if I wasn't sure whether or not there's a problem, would it be just wise to not call in those ancestors, or because I'm unsure?
The answer, you're not calling them in as such. What you're actually doing is healing you're healing. What your intent is to heal the lineage.
Okay.
And then lots of times when ancestors are stuck in energy and they're going way back, they'll be pretty happy when you come to heal them.
Okay. Thank
you know, and you know, lots of times, when they're in this space, they think they're forgotten about. There's also the miscellaneous ancestors. Your father's line is on your right, your mother's line is on your left. Down the middle is the miscellaneous ancestors. These ancestors are the ancestors of our fathers and mothers and other lives and other lineages and other energies. And lots of times, I know here in Ireland, people will say they would say they had, someone would say to them, a medium, someone, there's an Indian standing behind you, there's whatever standing behind you, different nationalities, different things. Lots of times, that could be their spirit guide in this life, but it could also be an ancestor in another life, you know. The ancestors there's so much work you can do with that lineage and that stuff. I could run workshops on that for you know, it gets very intricate and very deep, and especially in this country, I suppose there's a lot of ancestral healing to be done and a lot of lineages to be healed. It's but if you just do it simply, if you have a problem, just email me.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Just say you were talking to me on with Amanda, so I'll know.
That's very nice, Paul. Okay, so we'll take one last question, and it's from Justine. Since I have a historical house and she's in Virginia, I've felt that this house has held me and my family random. We've tried to make progress with fixing our house, but something seems to happen with money every time.
Yeah.
Ransom.
I feel there's an energy there that needs to be cleared, and it's hampering everything. Yeah, there's stuff there. There's blood there too. She wants to email me and say that she was on your show. Okay. We'll see what we can do for her.
Oh, that's very nice. And Penny, thank you so much. I have man. Is that what you meant to say, Penny? Thank you so much. I have man. Penny, do you want to unmute yourself? Because I don't think that
yes.
was... Okay.
Sorry. No, I was typing quickly on my phone. I thank you so much for sharing. This has been such an amazing amazing journey. I have many questions, so I will email you. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Darla. My pleasure. If we can help one person or empower one person on the journey, that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Amen.
and Maya has put up her hand. If possible, one last question. My father's wife left him at age 76 and he's been struggling being alone. Would it be wise for me to do a space clear his place, or is it too much for me? She said.
To go with her heart and see. I wouldn't say it'd be too much for her. Just see how it would be for him. Because if you do a space clear, then sometimes lots of stuff, you know, it brings up lots of stuff. When I do some of the work, sometimes people can be in crap for maybe 8 weeks up to 3 months because they've been used to living in a different energy, and then their bodies has to adjust. So you'd have to take that into consideration, as you know, whether he's up to it or not, you know.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Paul. So I know that you were saying that you would like to do our closing meditation just to close our space. So I'll invite you to go ahead and start on that whenever you're ready.
Okay, this will be short and sweet.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so just close your eyes for a minute and just relax. Conscious of your feet on the floor. Your hands are relaxed, your feet, your shoulders. And just take 7 breaths. The breath in, deep in, and the breath out. And as you breathe up your back and down your front. And anytime your mind starts to wander, just focus on the breath. Breath in, the breath out. Just 2 more breaths. Just sit down, just relax, just be with yourself. Feet firmly on the ground. Now I just want you to imagine yourself in a bubble. The bubble is below you, goes 2 foot into the ground around you as you stand on the ground. It's to the front of you. It's to the back of you, left, right, and above you. Just feel yourself and sense yourself in that bubble, and you're nice and safe and you're secure. Now just open your heart. And a nice way to open your heart is just to imagine a rose on your heart. It's early morning, and as the sun shines on the rose, it opens up into full bloom. Feel it expand and open. And just keep breathing in and out, nice and easy. Surrender all your love to the bubble. All your gifts, all your power, all your energy, surround yourself with it. Be in it. Your humility, your love, let everything go. Now just open the lid on the top of the bubble. And in gratitude to the universe, who has supported you and loved you all this time, let all that energy go. All your love, all your power, all your energy, surrender it to the universe. Just let it go. So just let it go all the ways up into the universe. Out through the black hole, out through the stars, out past the sun, into the vastness of the universe. Just let it go. Now let the universe send back to you in gratitude all the gifts that you need from it, the love, the peace, the harmony, and the joy. See it coming back into your body. All that angelic energy, higher vibrational energy, Palladian energy, whatever is needed, let it come to you. Feel the energy seeping through your heart and fill your body as well. And just breathe. See the top of the bottle close, the lid. Feel that energy around you. And just let the rose close in your heart. I see the lid on the bottom of the bubble open. And because you're brought in high vibrational energy from above, all the heavy energy, negative energy, is all sitting at your knees and below. So we give this to the earth as a gift. It likes negative energy. It eats it. It transmutes it. And just let it go as a gift to the earth. And take it to the earth. All the doubts, all the anger, all the fear, all the heavy stuff into the earth. And just breathe. Now allow the earth to send back to you vibrancy from the stone people, the tree people, the water, the minerals, crystals, everything within the earth that will come back up into your body, through your feet and fill your bubble. Mix with the other beautiful universal energy that's in it. Give the vibrancy, vitality, groundedness, peace. And just breathe. See the lid at the bottom close. And allow the energies to mix. Just be conscious of the color of the energy that's within your aura, crystal body at the moment. Just sit with it. Now just deep in your chest, just in your rib cage, in the middle of your body, visualize a crystal, marble crystal, clear quartz, about the size of a marble. We ask this energy to awaken. As we breathe, see it expand. Goes bigger and bigger. Comes outside the body. The bottom to the top, to the front, to the back, to the left, and to the right. Just see it expand out to fullness of your bubble. It heals the cracks and the energies within your bubble to help to make it strong and make it pure. Now we thank all the spirits and all the energies that worked with us today. And we thank them for being here. And we wish them safe home and well home till we see them again whenever they need to be with us, to work with us. We send you blessings too. We thank you. Oh, now, you can open your eyes and relax. Okay?
That was wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm honored.
And Maya said, so grateful. I know everybody feels that way. And I think everybody's just saying goodbye, feeling very, very peaceful and fulfilled. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. God bless.
So much gratitude for you sharing your wisdom and love with us. Thank you so much.
Okay. God bless. Bye-bye.
Much love to you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.